Well, before we went to commercial break, we told you Illinois lawmakers barely beat this past weekend's deadline and passed a budget on Saturday night. This budget bill certainly sweeping. It covers nearly all aspects of life in Illinois. There are new taxes included on tobacco, vapes, sports gambling, and foreign and out-of-state business income. But it's a tough fiscal year, and several wanted programs were not funded. So joining us now to break it all down is Ben Szalinski, State House reporter for Capitol News, Illinois. All right, Ben, thank you so much for being here after such a busy weekend that you had. I want to make sure we keep this clear. When we talk about the budget bill, there's really 4 bills that were passed between the House and the Senate, and we are talking thousands of pages here. How long did lawmakers have between when they got these documents to when they voted to pass this budget?
Not a very long time. We really saw this budget about 24 hours before it actually was passed by the General Assembly, right around 11 o'clock on Saturday night. So there's 24 hours just to review the spending plan. But then once we got into the revenue plan, that was even less. So these tax increases that you mentioned, those were introduced with about 4 or 5, maybe 6 hours left to actually be able to look at it, pass it, and review it. So that's not a lot of time to review upwards of 5, 6, 7,000 pages.
There was so much included in this, but there were several key things that people were looking for that were left out. I mean, one thing we did not see mentioned was energy reform, and a lot of hometowns are seeing energy prices go up this summer. Did lawmakers address this?
No, they left Springfield this weekend without really addressing energy reform in any way. There was a lot of talk. There was various amendments. There's a lot of discussion that, something is going to happen. There was even talk that this was going to be one of the most transformative energy policies that the state of Illinois has ever passed. Ultimately, they left without doing anything. They just didn't seem to be able to come to the right agreement about the right way to move forward. This legislation probably wouldn't have affected any energy prices for consumers this summer, but certainly going forward, if it opened the door to nuclear energy, for example, or better storage of energy being generated by wind and solar sources, this probably would have had a very transformative effect on the state.
Well, speaking of things that would have been very transformative, transit has been a huge topic of conversation. I mean, it's a major area of concern across the whole state, especially in Chicagoland, though. What happened when it comes to transit in this budget bill?
Yeah, we didn't see any source of transit funding for the Chicago area or downstate for that matter either in this budget. And that's seems to be kind of really a letdown for state lawmakers, and that they were coming into the spring session with the need to address a almost $1 billion fiscal shortfall in the Chicago area for public transit agencies. And they left this weekend without addressing really what was the number one issue that they had to address going forward. So it wasn't a must do this spring. It can be done in the summer. It can be done in the fall before these agencies pass their budgets in November. But it really is going to make the future of public transportation in the Chicago area much more uncertain going forward in the next few months.
Yeah. Well, my social feed was buzzing with people talking about a tax on deliveries like groceries, Amazon, even pizza deliveries. Did that get passed?
No, we did not see that pass. That was a proposed funding mechanism for the Chicago area to fund public transportation. So this would have been roughly a $1.50 per delivery on pizza, Amazon, groceries that you mentioned. So really, it wasn't, I guess, a big surprise that this didn't pass. It did pass the Senate, which is why you're seeing so many people talk about this. But ultimately, the House just never had time to take this up. So we'll see if that really gets revisited when lawmakers actually do come forward with transit funding. It would have been a very lucrative source of funding, but obviously very unpopular for a lot of people.
Well, Ben, looking at this budget bill as a whole, we know it was a really tight fiscal year. We also know that Illinois is grappling with these questions of how much money they're going to get this year from the federal government. You're talking about a $55+ billion budget bill. Is the revenue going to cover that?
We'll see. And I asked that same question to the governor yesterday. How do you know that this is actually going to be enough? Because he's so concerned that federal funding is going to be cut off, and the money is just not going to be there to continue to fund the state to the same level. So he's pretty confident that there are mechanisms in this budget that are going to be able to meet that $55 billion spending mark. And if lawmakers have to come back, it's going to be the congressional Republicans and the Trump administration that Illinois Democrats get to blame.
Well, before I let you go, Ben, you've been covering this session from the moment it started back in January. What are going to be your takeaways as this session ends?
I think really just the lack of legislation that passed forward. The budget was the main thing. As I mentioned, we didn't see transit funding get done. We didn't see energy reform get done. And, many of the governor's initiatives, like a cell phone ban in schools, for example, just didn't pass. So, it was just kind of a lackluster session where lawmakers just didn't really deliver on a lot of the things that had been talked about, which was certainly a departure from some previous years.
Well, as always, Ben, thank you so much for your expertise and your reporting, and thanks for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me, Shelby.
For you guys at home, the team at Capitol News Illinois has covered this budget bill extensively, and you can see all of their reporting at WQAD.com underneath the As Seen on TV tab.